Welcome back to the Deborah Peters Show. This is episode 2, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have you join me today. I'm so excited about this episode. I'm been thinking about it now since last week when we launched on February 22nd, and I'm so curious to hear how all of you did with the portal that opened on February 22nd and what you've actually demanded and commanded and created for yourself in alignment and partnership with the universe, with God, with your creator self. So we'll get into that a little bit today. I am back in my studio in Cali, and what an incredible road trip I had. I'll share that with you today as well. I'm a road tripper. I love to road trip. I love to get out there and talk to the locals and drive the back roads of America and have experiences that are beyond what I'm typically used to doing on a day-to-day basis. It totally expands my spirit and it brings me to another level with myself, which is always exciting. So just a little bit of a pause here. I'm going to shut my phone. I thought I did that already. You know, when you turn the volume down, but you actually turned it up. I think that's the situation here today. So give me just a second and we'll get that done. During my travels, I met the most incredible people. I'll share some stories with you about some of that as well today. But most importantly, what we're going to get into today is actually the setup, the introduction, the framework for what this podcast is all about. I'm going to go deeper into the different topics that I'll be covering and the why behind this, because, I was having I have a client that I see, CEO of a big bank, a mortgage bank that I meet with pretty consistently. And one of our strategy sessions, we do running the stairs at the beach, because if I try to meet with him in his office or, virtually, he's constantly being pulled on by many people and many demands, as you can possibly imagine. So when I get him at the beach early in the morning, crack of dawn, and his phone is left in his car, then I can really dial that in. And what we were talking about this morning was literally moving past what we see as appearances and getting right into the creation point. What are you creating? What are you creating? I ask myself that all the time. And on February 22nd, knowing that the energy had really truly shifted and we'd gone into a new place, a new space, a new level of awareness of what we're actually creating with our minds, with our focus, with our energy. Um, I was thinking about that for myself too, because I'm always looking to up level and take things to that next place of awareness. Being aware, I can use that word a lot. I can say, yeah, it's about being in a higher level state of awareness. Um, However, what does that mean? So that's a word. It's like when people use words to describe something, it's just a word. But what does the word mean? Um, what is their perception of that word as they're using it to describe the event or how they feel or what's going on in the world, or with their, even with themselves or their world? And so awareness, what is awareness? Well, the more I use the word consciousness a lot, and I suppose we could interchange that with self-awareness. The more aware you are of who you are being in the world and what that looks like to you and what that means to you, is an awareness. And the higher or greater, more expanded you can take your awareness, the more you can receive, the more you can realize, the more you can actualize. And that's really the process of going from, okay, I want these things, I want these experiences, I want this life, I want these results. Yet, are you aware of whether you're rejecting them or and repelling them, or actually bringing them into your your world as a tangible result? And so the more we can raise our awareness, then the more we can allow. If you have split energy, then that split energy is going to be like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, or 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, whatever the case is. And it's really about aligning that energy to bring everything into focus. I cannot emphasize focus enough. I'm really not a fan of multitasking. It messes with how your mind fires, it messes with your neurology. And, in my opinion, it creates a lot of sort of inability to complete, when we're multitasking. So, what we're going to do today is I'm going to dig a little deeper into each one of the topics that is being covered in this podcast over the course of each month. And then I'm going to share with you my guest for next week and what we're going to be covering with that, because you're going to want to tune in with the podcast for next week on the 8th of March. My guest is a phenomenal physician. He is an expert in hormones. And I'm really going to be asking him some hard questions about how our hormone balances or imbalances actually affect everything in our lives. And it's not just for women, it's for men too. And I can attest to that because I am a woman and I manage my own hormones. I've figured it out over time through a variety of ways, which we'll cover. But it's for men too. My main client base is male CEOs of small to mid-sized companies. So they usually range somewhere between late 30s to early 60s. And I experience watching them go through all sorts of hormonal shifts, because a lot of my clients I've had for 10, 15, and 20 years, and they cycle back through working with me when they're ready to take things to the next level. So that part of it gives me almost like case study work, where I can look at their situation and I can see the markers, I can see the changes in their cognitive, in their physical performance, in their enthusiasm and inspiration for life and for their work. So I really believe that the hormone balance and the relationship between your gut health and your brain health are so critical to achieving your goals in life that I'm launching my first guest appearance with Dr. Stephen Tenenbaum, who is a hormone specialist. He's written a book on the thyroid function. I've known him for over a decade, and he's stellar. He's got his thumb on the pulse of how important it is to make sure that you've got your hormones balanced if you want to get after life and you want to thrive and you want to live a high performance life. He's your guy. So next week, 12 noon, be here, be square. And Dr. Stephen Tenenbaum is going to be coming in the door, and I'm going to interview him, and I'm asking him some really hard questions about what's in our food, what's in our water, how does our food consumption, our thought consumption, our emotional consumption actually impact our hormones, and then how do our hormones actually impact our mindset, because it's all about connecting the dots between how you think, what you allow yourself to feel emotionally, whether you allow yourself to move forward and take action when you desire to, and what you put into your body, how you sleep. All of it adds up to being able to be a high performer, a peak performer, and a thriver. So that's next week's episode. So I see I have some guests coming in. Thank you, Chris, for being here today. Super excited to have you join me. So let's talk a little bit about why I am so passionate about this podcast. As I have been, just like you, a part of what has been taking place over the last couple of years on this planet, in this world, I I feel that if there's ever a time to really push through the fog, there's this concept of when you're rolling down the road and there's a fog, you can either be afraid and you can hit the brakes and you can stop because you're afraid to move forward because you can't see, and then you risk getting rear-ended by the person behind you, or you just press the throttle, you power through, you get to the other side, and the fog lifts and the clarity comes and your vision is clear. So, this is the time for that. And this is the time to really wake up to how you create your own reality. I cannot stress that enough. If you don't know that you create your own reality, then you've come to the right place. If you don't want to accept that you create your own reality, then you've come to the right place. If you reject that you create your own reality and that there's something outside of you that is determining that for you, then you have definitely come to the right place. Now, I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm going to lay it out for you. You can accept it or you can reject it. You can do what you want with it. It's your life. It's your reality. It's entirely your call. However, I'm going to bring to you as much um, information and tools that you can sink into straight away, and you can actually get into the process of creating your own reality, even when you feel like it's hard, or when the odds are stacked against you, or you aren't sure, or you don't know how, or you're confused. Whatever it is, I mean, they're just words, and words only have the meaning that we give them. So we want to make sure that you learn how to use the words wisely. The health part of the podcast agenda is probably something that I'm most passionate about, and I've been passionate about for all of my life. And it was born out of having poor health as a kid. Um, I had seizures when I was a kid. I was put on a psychotropic when I was a child to calm down the seizures. Little did they know, actually, it was a trigger. It was an audio trigger. It was a stress trigger in our home. It wasn't really that there was anything wrong with my brain function, because I would have tests on a consistent basis, where they put these patches on your head and then they stick needles through the hole in the patch. And I mean, it was just torture as a child sitting through that. And then having to take the medication, which is really fascinating because I was preschool and I was on this psychotropic medication, but I knew I didn't need it. And so I literally took myself off of it. Kids are so smart. Kids are just so smart. As adults, we think we know everything and we think we know better than the child. And maybe you do when it comes to, crossing the street, or, getting enough rest so you can bounce out of bed in the morning, that kind of stuff. But I really think that kids are actually sharper than adults, because adults start to shut down as they become responsible. They shut down their imagination, they shut down their passion, they shut down their desires and their magic. How many times have you said to yourself, "Oh, I need to get my head out of the clouds because I'm a responsible adult now," and you forget how powerful you are. You forget that you're magical and that with your thoughts and your emotions and your feelings, you can actually show yourself and teach yourself what action to take. And in that action, you can create phenomenal results. Well, I've never let go of that. I mean, there's times that it's been like a little quieter than my typical ramp up, but that's something that I have fiercely hung on to all of my life. And I actually have been willing to and am still willing to let go of any relationships with any people that are contrary to that. And I think that that's an important point to make because I have a whole section of relationship topics that we're going to go through as well. And that is, how your relationships are either one of two things. They're either people that are with you or they're people that are for you. And we'll get into that distinction when we get into the relationship topics. So the health part of it came and was born out of a time in my life where I really struggled with my health. And it was never anything that a doctor could fix with any kind of medication. I mean, it was really the trauma that I went through as a child. We had a lot of violence in our family, a lot of alcoholism, and everything that comes with an alcoholic family from passive aggressiveness, lies, criticism, never following through on stuff, denial, just a constant, dysfunctional spin, blame, no responsibility, no accountability. It just I mean, it was hideous, and yet it served as the wind under my wings to create the life that I've created and still continue to create ongoing basis, go big or go home all the time. Here's the deal though, with the health, I didn't know that I was unhealthy. The paradigm of the medical world having more knowledge about my body or my systems was rampant in our family. And becoming someone that was very curious about how my health was what it was really is what enabled me to turn the corner and stop giving away my power to external belief systems and concepts and ideas and a science that is not an absolute. So realizing that I'm my own science project, I'm my own petri dish, and it's up to me to start to pay attention to how I feel, how my body functions, how it actually works or doesn't work based on my thoughts and my emotions and my feelings, my environment, the people I spend time with, where I live, how I live, where I spend my time, to actually make it a priority to pay attention to that and then to work through the levels of awareness around that over my lifetime. So, for example, initially I owned a gym. And, I was in track and field when I was a kid in school. Um, and I was interested in fitness from just the endorphins, like how it made me feel. But as time progressed and I was in my 20s and I started getting into aerobic exercise, cardio, and I really was learning the high from that, the amping up of the high from that. It became my, crutch. It became my escape. So, it's like I took all of my, um, focus and escapism of not feeling well. Because when we find ourselves creating a not feeling well environment, it's an escape. There's something in your life that you're avoiding. And for those of you that just wanna throw your hands in the air and go, "How can you say that? I'm not trying to avoid anything. I'm very present, and it's just something that I have no control over that's just happening to my body, and I can't change it." That if that's your attitude, then you're gonna feel like a victim. So I had to teach myself through curiosity. You have to want to know something different than what you currently know in order for that something different to present itself in your life. And I had and have this insatiable curiosity about my health. I want to know if my body is low energy, I wanna know, what's causing that? Is it the food I ate? Is it the people I hang out with? Is it the lack of fresh air? I wanna know so that I have the power to change it, because if I just look outside of myself for someone to fix me, then I'm never, ever going to take charge of my reality, and your health is your number 1 priority. Now, I don't care if you're into being a billionaire, a multimillionaire, um, raising your kids, being a good husband, a good wife, a good CEO. I don't care about any of that stuff, because if you don't have your health, then none of that's going to happen. If you're dragging your feet, if you're dragging your butt all day long because you don't have the energy, because your body doesn't feel good, because you're sluggish, because you're overweight and you can't bend over, because you're not working out and you're not stretching and you're not meditating, and you're feeling the effects of that, and then you're wanting some doctor to give you a pill or something to change that, then you're a victim. And I guess that's a choice, that's a choice. You're welcome to be that, but that's not what this is about. That's not what this show is for. This show is for people that are sick and tired of not being in charge of their reality, and they wanna know how and what the tools are to to implement that and to put that into play and actually take charge of their lives, become a peak performer, live your life large, become a high performance person in your energy, because this is really about your energy. And if your body is sluggish, then your energy is sluggish. And it's a, it's a, it's not an either or, it's an and. It's like chicken or egg, like which comes first? Well, all of it. It all comes first, and it all starts with your health. When your gut health, when your body, when your mind, like all of it comes together and is the perfect storm. And then everything else in your life plays out from there. Your relationships get better because you're not cranky and in pain and feeling sluggish. Your money increases because you're enthusiastic and you're inspired and you jump out of bed in the morning and you can't wait to create. Your business grows because you have the stamina and the desire and the vision to take your business to the next level. And your self expression flourishes because you have the passion to say what's on your mind, to bring and articulate your thoughts into messages that other people can grasp and put to use. So your health is everything. Now, because I'm so passionate about health, it's a combination of things. And what I've learned with that curiosity is to really start to unpack what it is that is affecting me, and being mindful of everything that you consume. Now, in the last episode, on the 22nd, the first episode of the Deborah Peters show, I talked a great deal about consumption toward the end of the show. Content consumption, food consumption, spending consumption, consumerism. Whatever you're consuming is what you become. It's really kind of that simple. Whatever you're consuming is what you become. And we don't get in life what we deserve. We don't get in life what we want. We get in life who we are. Who are you? Who are you? Maybe that's a question you want to ask yourself. And maybe you want to get out a notepad and a pen and you want to sit down and you want to actually write that out. Who are you? Most people don't know who they are. They think they're a human wife, husband, mom, dad, business person, CEO, house owner, um, Mercedes driver, world traveler, millionaire, multimillionaire, broke, poverty conscious, whatever it is, most people think it's those things. And it's never any of those things. Those things are just symptoms of who you are. I know. It's kind of harsh, isn't it? That I'm asking you to actually look at your life and all the results you're getting and all the results you're not getting. And that's a snapshot of who you are, hands down. And if you don't like that, then create something else. Just create something else, create something greater for yourself. Do you matter enough to yourself to create something greater for you? That's a question worth asking. I ask myself that all the time. Am I worth enough to actually get outside of my comfort zone and create something greater? And that's where it all starts. It starts right there. It does. I mean, we could stop the show right here and you could just replay this part over and over and over. And that would be like your come to Jesus moment. Am I worth it? What's your life worth to you? Is it worth enough to change your consumption so that you can be the person you want to become, to be the person you want to be? Is your life worth it enough to you? I um I always used to ask this question when I was teaching NLP certification courses. And I don't know if you know that about me or not, but for maybe about 15 years, I taught all levels of neurolinguistic programming certification courses because I'm a certified master trainer. So I'd run practitioner courses and master prac and trainers training. And at the beginning of every training, I would ask this question: is your life, are your goals worth giving up who you are for? Because who you're being is just a product of some old program and condition that you've accepted. Now, it's it's one thing as a child to grow up in an abusive home like I did. And listen, neglect is abuse, abandonment is abuse, criticism is abuse. Anything that traumatizes you is abusive. So it's one thing to grow up in that and have your psyche be formed and shaped by those experiences. Um, that's one conversation. Another conversation is perpetuating that as an adult and constantly looking in the rearview mirror and going, my life sucks because I had a shitty childhood or I had a bad childhood or whatever the word is for you, however you want to describe it. And you got to turn the corner at some point and stop looking back. Turn all of those lemons into lemonade. make your existence who you are, create it into polish it up, make it whatever it is you would like to make it, and keep working at it. It doesn't happen overnight. When you consider how much programming and conditioning you received as a child for years, and then as an adult, you want to pivot on a dime and become this other person, it takes as much or maybe more conditioning in the other direction in order to replace that old program. So it's kind of like having a virus on your computer, you know? You get a virus on your computer and you gotta kind of like defrag and let that go and get into a different space. So the very first guest episode I'm having is next week, and the focus is on health. I want to give you the tools to take charge of your health and to learn to listen to your body. So here's some of the notes. I was making some notes about, okay, why health? Why is this so important? Well, I'm so passionate about it because for a lot of reasons, I guess. I grew up in a home where um, the medical world was idolized. If they had a white coat on and a degree on their wall, then they were God, and they're not. I love my physicians. Thank you. I also love my CPA. Thank you. I also love my who else do I love? The instructor from my fitness classes. Thank you. Are they God? No. They are someone with knowledge that is constantly, ideally, constantly practicing and learning more and applying, getting feedback, adjusting, learning more, applying, getting feedback, adjusting. That's science. Science is not an absolute. It's not a place you arrive at. It's not the house at the end of the road. It's an it's an endless road. It's an infinite road that is a practice, and it evolves with feedback. And the feedback is as great as the sample size. So the greater the sample size, the greater the feedback. And like with any statistics, I always question, what was the intention of the experiment going into the experiment to give you the statistics that you're publishing? Because the intention will always, always, always influence the outcome of the experiment, because you're only going to look for the outcome that you had the intention to achieve. And therein lies the problem with statistics. So, in this podcast, we're going to unpack everything. We're going to unpack everything that goes on in the world, everything you're fed, information, food, beverages, relationships, everything you are fed and you choose to consume. I'm going to unpack it down to the bare bones of what it's really all about, so that there's never any sort of mysticism that overhangs your self-awareness, so you can make choices that are in alignment with your greatest possibilities, because you have so much potential that you don't even know what to do with it all. And so I think that's why for most people, they don't get after it, because you s- you scare the shit out of yourself, and we don't want you to be stuck anymore. That's just resistance energy. When you have a desire over here that is so great, and it's pulling on you, and it's asking you for your attention, and it's demanding that you love on it and give it your all. And then over here on this side, we've got all the yeah buts and the doubts and the you know, the negativity. When you can bring those two into alignment, when you can have that desire, when you can have that enthusiasm for something, and then you actually breathe and speak life into it with your words, with your feelings, with your attention, with your focus, with your self love, then that's all it really takes, because what you are seeking is seeking you. And I said this in the first podcast. The thing is that you have to invite it in. You have to ask it to come in. You have to embrace it. You have to say to yourself, I am now X. And when you could go into that place, then the next question can be, I am now X, whatever the goal is. I am now wealthy. I am now fit. I am now healthy. I am now loved. I am now loving. I am now happy. When you say those words, you actually cast a spell over your life. Then all you have to do is say, next, what is it I need to know? What is it I need to do? What is it I need to think? What is it I can do right now to embrace that, download that, live that, be that? So it's about asking yourself higher level questions as well. And this is something that needs to take place in every area of your life. So we're getting into health because we're going to build a foundation for you to be strong, to be formidable, to be fierce, to be enthusiastic and inspired about every area of your life. And then you have the energy to get after it and to execute on the guidance that spirit gives you of what needs to be executed on. Go to the meeting, go to the conference, speak at the event, shake the hands, do the deals, drive across town, go on vacation. Sometimes going on vacation is everything you need to come back in a whole new place within yourself, which is exactly what's happening with me. I was gone for 2 weeks. I was out snowmobiling. I did 4 days of snowmobiling. I probably did 100 miles a day out in the backcountry between the trees. It was like 8-hour days. It was like, wow. I skied, I walked, I stared at the sky, I saw the stars, I thanked God for my life and for every single moment that I had created, because I worked at creating the resources to have that experience. And you can too. All you have to do is shift your thinking. We're going to get into wealth. And it's not so much the linear, logical idea about wealth, like how to invest your money and what stocks to buy. I'm talking about the energy of wealth, the energy of money, the money story that you pack around in your mind about, you know, money is evil or dirty money, or rich people are bad, or they're crooks, or whatever your story is. Everybody has a money story. I do a course called Shift, Change, and Heal Your Money Story. We're going to be launching that as a recorded program this year. And it really gets you to dig into the story you tell yourself about money, because we all have one. You may not be aware of it, but I promise you, if you don't have all the money you want in your life, you have a money story, and it's probably not a good one. Next, we're going to get into relationships, because relationships are a really wonderful way to learn about yourself. And, for about 10 years, I did couples coaching. Oh my God, let me tell you, when you sit for an hour with a couple and all they can do is point the finger at the other person, it gets a little exhausting. And I had this really cool tool. So, I would have them come and I would meet with them, and I would give them exercises to do and things to work on in between. And then they'd still come back and complain about each other. So I'd get them to a point and I'd say, all right, if you guys are so miserable and you hate each other so much, then My suggestion is you get a divorce and we're done. As soon as I said that, as soon as I would tell them that they should just get a divorce and they were done, boom, they would hunker down and they'd heal their relationship. A little bit of polarity responder tools there, but worked every single time. In fact, I had a client last year that every single coaching session building his business, he complained about his wife. And finally I said, listen, if this marriage is so horrific, then you should just divorce her. Boom. Flipped him around on a dime. And now suddenly is like loving all over her. So sometimes, you just got to like hit people right in the solar plexus and tell them to wake up, or, a little on the head. Hello, listen to yourself. You're creating this horrible reality because all you're doing is complaining about your circumstances instead of being focused on what you could be creating instead. Then we're going to get into your business. Your business is an expression of you. It's not hard. It's not a struggle. And most businesses don't fail like they tell you. That is so not true. It's propaganda. The only time businesses fail is when you are in resistance to success. We're going to unpack that too. I've been coaching companies for 20 some years, 17 countries, every industry you can think of, from luxury markets to Fortune 500 companies to mom pop shops. I promise you, if that business isn't working, then you have resistance to success. And then finally, final topic we're covering is self-expression. As you can see, I've kind of mastered that. And it wasn't easy. I mean, there was times where I would just like be so frustrated because I would be in a communication with people or someone and I wouldn't say the truth about how I felt. I couldn't find a way of bringing all that energy and angst that was in me out and put it into words and stand up for myself. And I ate a lot of shit over the years, and there's just no reason for anybody to ever have to put up with any nonsense in their lives. And I really feel passionate about the self-expression part because it's an extension of who you're being. So we're going to build you up. We're going to teach you how to be strong. I'm going to show you how to be resilient, how to have a spiritual quotient that's off the chain so nobody can upset your apple cart anymore, and you gain growth from every experience that you go for, and you turn all those lemons into lemonade. How to get wealthy, how to receive more money, how to accept more love, how to allow all of your dreams to come to fruition. And that is the Deborah Peters Show. That is the mission I'm on. That is the legacy that I leave when I'm gone from this planet, is that you can be, do, and have anything. It's just a matter of going for it. So thank you for being here today. It is absolutely wonderful to have you. I see a couple people on here. Margie, thank you. I'm still learning my StreamYard tools. I've been traveling for a couple weeks and road tripping, and I did the drive, and it's a 2-day drive, and I had Wi-Fi service quit halfway through stuff. I had cell phone towers that were snowed in, and I didn't have any signal. And on my very first podcast last week, I actually had to drive 130 miles in a snowstorm to get to a town where I could find a public library where they would let me use their Wi-Fi and I could get my work done. So listen, don't ever let anything hold you back. You do what you got to do. You get up, you suit up, you show up, and you push through the blocks, and you just allow God, you allow the universe to fill your soul, and it will happen so powerfully that you won't be able to hold yourself back. You'll never have to wonder where the inspiration's coming from to get things done, because you just be so lit on fire. And that, my friends, is the Deborah Peters Show. So thank you for being here today. Love you guys. And remember, next week, March 8th, 12 noon PST, public Pacific Standard Time, public, is Dr. Stephen Tenenbaum, and I'm gonna ask him some hard questions about how our hormone balances or imbalances rule your reality. All right, my friends, you guys have a blessed week. Go kick some ass, and I will see you on the 8th of March. Take care. Bye-bye.